today in the part of our section, we are going to discuss about a new topic that is about load balancing, right? So now we all understand that in our day-to-day life, we have been accessing lots of our websites, right? So it could be one of them could be a Flipkart, one of them could be Amazon, one of them could be a Paytm or any other international or a national or domestic or any of these websites we might be accessing. But if you see, these websites never go down, right? So if you ask about the Gmail, Facebook, Instagram, do you think they ever go down? Hardly once in a 10 years or maybe once in a 5 years. That too because of something went wrong, they might have been unavailable for a little while, but most of the times they are available with 24 bar 7 availability. So how do you think this concept actually works through, right? That's why we are going to look out at the load balancing section. So now I'm quickly going to go ahead and open our notepad where we are going to make some notes. Right. So talking about the load balancing. So usually, as this we just spoke about on the small example. So what happens in the real time? So as an end user, you might be actually accessing one of the server, web server maybe we'll say, right? And this web server basically is actually connected to a load balancer, right? So wherever we host the web server, it would be connected to a load balancer, and this load balancer will actually be connected to the you see here. Just put some random threads. Okay, so here if you see, this is a load balancer, and each load balancer basically has one EC2 instance behind it. Right, so this is how the basically things work. Now, as the name itself says, it's a load balancer, which means basically it is going to balance the load on each of these machines. So actually I can host Flipkart or the Amazon website or maybe the Gmail or any other things on these EC2 instances, and these EC2 instance will have a load balancer in the front which is going to completely balance the load. So even if I have hundreds or thousands of users, I do not have to worry about it because automatically the load will get distributed across all of these instances, right? Now we may have one more question: what will happen if the load increases, right? So today we have 1,000, that's fine, but tomorrow if it becomes 10,000, then what will load balancer do, right? So it will try to divide among these. We have currently 7 servers, so maybe let's say it's trying to divide among the 7 servers itself. But if this if the capacity of the specific EC2 instance doesn't allow you to do transactions, then what? That's where the next concept will come across, that is about auto scaling, right? Which means whenever the load increases, we are trying to scale the instance, right? So I might want to add one more EC2 instance here, right? So as the load increases, we can add one more instance overall. So that is about the auto scaling concept. So we'll learn about the auto scaling concept in the tomorrow's session, but talking about the load balancing first. So load balancer basically allows you to balance the load across the multiple EC2 instances so that the traffic which is incoming from the outside world will be equally distributed across. Now, how do we actually get started with this, or how do we understand the concept of a load balancer? So quickly we'll go to lab part of this, and I'll quickly go down to ELB. So here we have the load balancing section, and here is the load balancer. Right, so I'll quickly go ahead and click on this. So here we'll go ahead and click on create load balancer. The moment I click on create load balancer on this page, we are going to get a set of three different types. So one of them is application load balancer, second one is network load balancer, and third one is classic load balancer. So if you see the very first one, application load balancer, it basically supports HTTP and the HTTPS protocols. And if we talk about the network load balancer, it basically supports some TCP protocols. And then if I talk about the classic load balancer, it actually supports all of them. So this is something that they're going to remove off very soon, but not sure when it is. But because a lot of companies are still using the classic load balancers, and in order to understand the concept of load balancers also, it is really good to go ahead and learn the classic load balancer first, and then come down to what is application load balancer and what is the network load balancer. So first what we'll do is we'll go to classic load balancer, click on the create. Right, so here we have a load balancer. Now I'll first give the name of this load balancer as my first load balancer, or my first LB, I'll give it as. So currently we are going to launch in the default VPC, and then the rest of the options I leave it default. So I do not want to create it as an internal load balancer, right? So if you select this option, basically it will become internal to this VPC, right? And you cannot access it from the outside world. But since we're trying to create a website which will be accessible from outside world by everyone, right? So I would like to leave this option default, right? So which is unselected. And next is enable advanced VPC configuration. So for now, first we'll check only the basic VPC configuration, and then we'll go to the advanced level. So if I click on this advanced VPC level, it will give you an option to select the subnets. But for that, we need to go to the lab of VPC. So once we complete the lab of VPC, we'll surely come down to check through how this advanced VPC configuration works. So for now, I'll keep it unchecked, and then we have a listener configuration. Right, so what is the listener configuration? So now, as we just had a look on the notepad, what are we trying to do? A user is trying to actually access a web server, and this web server is basically talking to the load balancer, right? So the load balancer will be working on one port, and the EC2 instances also are working on one specific port. So if we go back, here we are defining which port on the protocol load balancer is working on, and which port and the protocol the EC2 instance will be working. So for now, I'll say I want to enable the HTTP port number 80 for the load balancer, as well as HTTP port number 80 on the instance as well, which we are trying to map it here. So HTTP load balancer protocol on port 80 will talk to HTTP protocol on the port 80 with the EC2 instance. So if you want to add some other specific port, you can also actually do it. So we have HTTP, HTTPS, TCP, and the SSL. So for now, we'll make use of the basic one, that is HTTP, and then click on next, assign security groups. Like the way we assign a security group to our EC2 instance, similarly, we also need to assign a security group to load balancer as well. However, we cannot log in into the load balancer like the way we can log in into the EC2 instance. It's just a load balancer which can balance the load. And since we have just now selected the load balancer to work on the port 80, I guess web server security group will be the appropriate one to select through, which has got port 80 already opened up, right? So don't want to create a new security group and then just add the port 80 to be opened up. So already we have web server security group. We just got port 80, port 22, and port 443 opened up. So I'll make use of the existing security group itself, which will do the work for me. Let's click on the third step, that is about configuring the security settings. Now, since we are using the port 80, we do not have any of the security settings to be enabled on this load balancer, which means this is advanced level security configuration. Now, we'll talk about this advanced level security configuration in a little while. Let's go ahead and first next configure the health check. So this is the most important step of the complete load balancer. Now, how does the load balancer really know whether the instances are working fine or not, right? So if I have 8 EC2 instances attached, how does the load balancer actually know whether this instance is working, whether this instance is working? Something might happen, right? It might get corrupted, it might get shut down, or this might not be working, or there's something wrong in this machine. But how does the load balancer actually know whether this machine is working fine and I should send the traffic to it or not, right? That basically depends upon this specific page that is about configuring the health check. Now, if this page, please pay attention, because this is the heart of the complete load balancing section, where we talk about how to configure the health check, because on the basis of this, load balancer will be able to understand that I have to, this instance is completely working and I'll be able to send the traffic to it. So how does it work? So basically, load balancer has a capability of performing a health check of your EC2 instance. So it has a capability to check if the EC2 instance is working or not, or whether the EC2 instance is healthy or not. And how does it check it through? So it is checking it by routing the traffic to the instances, and that will pass the health check, right? So it is trying to ping on the port number 80. If you see here, it is trying to ping on the protocol with the HTTP over the port 80 to check whether this file exists or not. If this exists, which means the health check gets passed, and if the health check is passed, then load balancer understands that I should be able to send some traffic to this EC2 instance. And here, if you see, if the instance health check fails, then it is automatically removed from the load balancer, right? If it fails, it is automatically removed from the load balancer. Now let's go ahead and work out on this health check. So what we're going to do is ping protocol. So on the HTTP port number 80, I'm going to go ahead and check for a file with the name healthy.html. So it's up to you which file you want this load balancer to be checking, right? So of course, I will not say index.html, because now if you see here, the flipkart.com, right? So the moment I say flipkart.com, you can see the home page of the Flipkart will load. The home page is basically called as index document, and you can see it has got a lot of items and lot of things to be displayed all across, right? So as you can see, still it's loading all the images here, right? So it may take overall few seconds to completely load the web page, and it's not appropriate to actually check the home page is working or not. So I'm trying to give a page which is very lightweight, which is just having a text, and which can let me say that, okay, this web server is up and working, and the healthy.html file is actually appropriately responding back. So I'm going to create one file with the name healthy.html, and we are going to check over the port number 80, that is a protocol with HTTP, whether it is working or not. And if it works, then our health check will be automatically passed. Now, for this health check, let's configure some of the advanced details. That is, first is response timeout. Now if you click on the I here, that is informational button on the response timeout, it says time to wait when receiving a response from the health check. So let's say I am a load balancer and I have 3 students who are like EC2 instances. So the moment I'm going to go ahead and give a check on any of the student, whether he is active or not, right? So I might get a response within 1 second, 2 seconds, or 5 seconds, right? So that is nothing but a response timeout. So I'm saying that within how much time I'll get back a response. So maximum I'm saying it as 5 seconds. So load balancer will wait for 5 seconds to get the response. If it doesn't get, it will say it as a response timed out. And next, interval. So let's say now I have sent a request to find out how many students are actually active. So currently there are 3 in my class. So let's say I send out a health check to find out who all are active. So I might not get the response in the first 5 seconds. Then I'll wait for the interval of a 30 seconds before I can make a second health check again, right? So interval basically defines after how much time I should conduct one more test again, right? So interval is basically the amount of time between the health check. And next we have unhealthy threshold and the healthy threshold. So let's say the first time I go and ask who all are active, and if I get a response, then it's considered as a active. Second time also I send a request, I get a response as active, then I can consider it to be healthy. So if you see here, healthy threshold basically means the number of consecutive health check successes before declaring an instance healthy. So I'm not saying that if I'm getting response in one shot, I'm declaring it as healthy. No, I'll consecutively be sending these requests every 30 seconds. And if I am getting continuously for 3 times, if I get a positive response, then I'll tell it as a healthy. If I do not get for 2 times, I'll declare it as unhealthy. Right. So here what we are trying to do, we are first, load balancer is trying to make a check on the EC2 instance. So it will wait for 5 seconds. So if it doesn't get, it will conduct the next test after 30 seconds. And consecutively, if the checks are passing, so if it passes for 3 times, then I'm declaring it as healthy. If it fails for 2 times, then I'm declaring it as a unhealthy. Right. So this is the roadmap here. As you see, this is a load balancer, and this load balancer is trying to conduct a test on the first EC2 instance, second EC2 instance, third EC2 instance, fourth EC2 instance, so on up to 8th EC2 instance. So first time it sends, maybe this responded. Let's say I'll keep it as Y. This also responded. This also responded. This also responded. This also responded. Maybe let's say this didn't respond. This didn't respond, and this responded. So which means I cannot still declare them as active because 3 times I should be passing out this specific test. So let's say second time also we are getting the responses like this. Now I can declare that the first instance is healthy, but I can also declare that the sixth and the seventh instance are unhealthy. But let's say first time they didn't respond and second time they respond. Then what happens about it? Right? I cannot still declare it to be unhealthy. But you can see after third and fourth test, I can completely declare it as unhealthy because it went into not responding mode. So this was about the health check. So any questions here on the health check? Divya, Shankar, Joginder? How about you, Joginder and Divya? Any questions on this part of health check? This is really important, as I said, because health check is the heart of complete load balancer, right? So if you understand the health check, the load balancing will be very much easier to go ahead with, right? And this is something that we might be using in our day-to-day, every day in our normal life of working in the AWS environment. Okay, so moving ahead, so what we are trying to do in the health check, we are trying to check out for one of the file over a specific protocol, and if that starts responding, right? So if it responds for 3 times correctly, we are declaring it as healthy. If it doesn't respond 2 times, we are declaring it as unhealthy. And we are trying to conduct the test at every 30 seconds, and then we are waiting for the response to come within 5 seconds. Now let's go ahead and add the EC2 instances. So currently we do not have any EC2 instances yet created, right? So we do not have any instances. We are just creating a load balancer first. So we can add the instances later. That's not a problem. So I leave this space blank. And in this specific page, I also have a couple of more options. So if you see here, first is about enable cross-zone load balancing, which means I can have my EC2 instances in two different availability zones. One of them could be in the part of AP South 1A, second could be in the AP South 1B. So if I really want to ensure that my load balancer is able to balance the load between the EC2 instances which are part of different availability zones, then I need to enable this. So it could be like this. So I have 8 EC2 instances. Now let's say this is basically part of availability zone 1A. This could be part of 1B. Again, this is part of 1A, 1B. Right. So I can have the instances in any of the availability zones, but we need to ensure that we give that cross zone load balancing, because if we do not give, it might not be able to understand whether it has to balance the load between the instances which are in different availability zones. If not, it will start balancing only for 1A or only for the 1B. So it's better always to mention cross zone load balancing. And the second is connection draining. Now it might happen that so maybe let's say this is one of the EC2 instance, right? Now this started giving some problems or it stopped responding, right? Some problem has actually come through and it is actually going into a shutdown mode. But there could be a transaction which a user is actually continuing with this EC2 instance, right? That is where the connection draining will come into the picture, because the load balancing has the capability to remove any of the unhealthy instances, right? So if, so let's say someone tries to terminate this EC2 instance itself. So while terminating, what happens? There might be a case that some user is actually continuing his transaction on this EC2 instance. But if I say terminate this EC2 instance, then what will happen to my transaction, right? So if I enable the connection draining, which means up to 300 seconds, this instance will be still available before it can be terminated, right? So it will first complete all the transactions which are ongoing on this instance, and then only it will get shut down or terminated. That is basically where the connection draining will come into the picture. So while the instance is about to go down, and if there are any ongoing connections, it will first drain the traffic, right? Which means it will actually complete those transactions, and then only it will get into terminated mode. So while it is in the draining mode, it will not accept any new connections. So let's say if I have 1,000 users who are accessing this website, and this load balancer will equally distribute all of them to these instances. So now 1,000 divided by, let's say, 8, right? But now one of the instances has been terminated, so it will be 1,000 divided by 7. So any new transactions which are coming will not be sent to this EC2 instance, but this instance will actually complete all the transactions that are actually mapped to it at this point of time. That is because of the connection draining. And next, let's go and add the tags. So I'll just give the tag as name my first LB, and then quickly we'll go and say review and create. So what did we do? In the first step, we defined the name of the load balancer. Then we said that it's going to be interfacing over the protocol port 80. Load balancer is going to talk to protocol HTTP with port 80 to the EC2 instance. And in the next page, we actually configured the health check. So we are going to check for the port 80 with the healthy.html file, and we are going to ensure that this is going to be checked every we are going to check it every 30 seconds and wait for 5 seconds to get back the response. If it responds properly for 3 times, we are declaring it as healthy. If it doesn't respond, we're going to declare it as unhealthy. And currently we have not added any EC2 instances. We'll add it later, and rest of the two options we have enabled it. And currently this is part of default VPC and the default security, and the security group we have given it as a web server, and this is the tag we have given. Let's quickly go ahead and create this EC2 instance, sorry, create this load balancer. So now the load balancer has been created. We'll quickly create two EC2 instances and we'll attach it to this load balancer. So let's go down to the EC2 instance section and click on launch instance. So I'm going to pick up the Amazon Linux AMI here. And as a part of our free tier, we'll just pick up the 1 virtual CPU and 1 GB of RAM. So this time what we're going to do is we're also going to select the subnet. Right, in the step number 3, we are going to ensure that we select the subnet. So one instance I'm going to put it as a part of AP South 1A, and the second instance I'm going to put it as a part of AP South 1B. And I'll ensure that the auto send public IP is in enable mode. I'll scroll the page down and go to the advanced details. And remember, we learned how to put the user data, that is about bootstrap script. So I'm going to put a small bootstrap script here. So I'll say shebang /bin/bash, and then I'll say yum update -y. So this is going to update all the security patches, and then we are going to install Apache, that is httpd. So I'm going to convert this into a web server, and then we are going to go to the directory, that is var www/html, and here we are going to create two files. One is index.html and the second is healthy.html. So let's create those files. So I'll say this is my home page from AWS Cloud, and this is from the AP South 1A availability zone, right? So I'll just keep it as AP South 1A AZ. So I'll put it behind the h1 tag. And I'll try to save this file as index.html. And similarly, I'll give one more echo command to create one more HTML file for healthiness. So I'll say this is healthy. Right, so this is going to be healthy.html. And finally, we are going to start the Apache service. So I'll say service httpd start, and I'm going to ensure that this service is always up and running. So I'll say check the configuration file chkconfig httpd on. Right, so this is a small bootstrap script we are going to involve in this server. So I'm not going to log into SSH console anymore and run these commands. We can actually automate all of this by using the bootstrap script. So let's copy the script and then keep it in the notepad. Okay, so this is the bootstrap script, and I'll go back to the quickly adding the storage. It is going to be of size 8 GB with general purpose SSD drive. And then adding the tags. So I'll just say name. So this is part of AP South 1A. So I'll say AP South 1A instance. And then configure the security group. We are going to put it behind the web server security group. It has got the port 80, port 22, and port 443 opened up. And then I'll quickly launch this machine using the key pair that we already have in our machine. This is December 2018 key pair. So while this instance is going to launch up, I'm quickly going to launch one more EC2 instance, which is going to be part of AP South 1B. So let's go ahead and pick up again the Amazon Linux AMI here. And as a part of a free tier, I'll just pick up the 1 virtual CPU and 1 GB of RAM. And then again, the page number 3, I'm going to ensure that this is going to be part of AP South 1B this time, and the public IP setting is in enable mode. And if I scroll the page down here in the advanced details, we are going to put again small bootstrap script. But remember, this time this is going to be part of AP South 1B. So I'll modify the user data a little bit, where I'll say that this instance actually belongs to AP South 1B availability zone. Rest of the things I'll keep it as it is, and then quickly go and add the storage of 8 GB. And then let's go ahead and add the tags name AP South 1B instance, and I'll attach it to the existing security group, it is web server, and then quickly review and launch this machine using the key pair that we already have. So there we go. We have now launched the two EC2 instances. Now the first one is already in up and running mode. Let's copy the public IP address and see if it is already responding up or not. So we have not logged in into any of the EC2 instances. Remember, we have completely given the bootstrap script, and I have copied the public IP address of the very first instance, which is part of AP South 1A, and I'm going to put it on the browser here. So you can see here it clearly shows this is my home page from AWS Cloud AP South 1A availability zone. Similarly, the second one is also running. Let me copy the public IP address of that. So still it is not run the bootstrap script yet. So let me refresh this page. I guess it's still initializing it. Let me refresh it again. Yeah, so now it's responding back saying this is my home page from AWS Cloud AP South 1B availability zone. So let me share you both the IP addresses. You guys can first go ahead and check it, both the IP addresses, and then I'll add it to the load balancer. So let me know in case you are able to get the response from both the web pages. So Shankar, Joginder, Divya, all of you can try and let me know. So does it respond back to you guys? Divya, Joginder, Shankar, or both the IP addresses? How about you, Divya and Joginder? Are you guys also able to access those web pages? Okay, so now what we'll do is we'll quickly go ahead and add it to the load balancer. Right, so what did we do? If you look out at the notepad, we created the two instances and I have a load balancer across it. And now we'll see after adding to the load balancer how it is going to transfer the traffic alternatively, or we can say equally, to both the EC2 instances. So I'll quickly go down to the load balancer again. And then in the instance section, I'll quickly just say edit instances and then add both of them which we have just now created, and then say save. Right, so initially you can see these are out of service. Just let's wait for a couple of seconds to see that it is going to come into in service. Basically it's going to conduct a health check. Now let's go ahead and refresh the page on the top here and then see whether it becomes in service. Yes, so now you can see it was out of service earlier, now it has become in service. So basically initially whenever we add the instances to the load balancer will keep it as out of service, and then it starts conducting the health check as we learnt about. and once the health check passes, it is going to show you in service. Now, how do you test whether this load balancer is working or not? So coming to the description part of the load balancer, here I have the DNS name. So let's go ahead and copy this DNS name. I'll also put it in the chat box. Right, so I'm sending it across. So just try it out and let me know if you are able to access the web server. So initially, you see my first request went to AP South 1A availability zone. Now if I keep refreshing this page, it will start sending the traffic to different servers. So sometimes it will go to AP South 1B, sometimes it will go to AP South 1A as well, right? So alternatively, the traffic keeps changing. So you can keep refreshing the page by yourself and see that the request one time will go to AP South 1A and the second time it will go to AP South 1B, right? So load balancer is automatically going to balance the load and automatically is going to send it to the respective EC2 instance, which means if I'm trying to send 10 requests, 5 requests will be sent to AP South 1A and the 5 requests will be actually sent to AP South 1B. So load balancers are equally going to distribute all the traffic across the instances which are healthy across itself. So you guys can go ahead and check the load balancer URL which is there in the chat box and confirm me back if you guys are able to see through by refreshing the page multiple times how the traffic is moving from 1A and 1B between the two instances. You guys can confirm it back, Divya, Joginder, Shankar, if it's working for you. Shankar, Joginder, Divya, does it work? The load balancer URL? How about others? Joginder, Divya? Right, so if you go back to the load balancing section and expand the properties here, you can see we have multiple tabs which basically give me more information about this load balancer. So on the very first page of description, I can see about what is the name of my load balancer and this is the DNS name. Remember, they will never ever help you with the IP address of the load balancer, right? So from the load balancer perspective, we cannot get IP address. It's only the DNS name itself because Amazon never shares the IP address of the load balancer at all. So automatically it keeps switching between the different IP addresses of the EC2 instances what we have. But overall, this DNS name will never reveal about the IP address behind it. And currently the type that we are using is classic and it is currently internet facing, and these are the two availability zones which are included as a part of this load balancer. And remember, in Mumbai region we have two availability zones and both of them are included as a part of this load balancer. And this shows basically the time of creation when it was created, and this is basically the hosted zone. So each region like Mumbai will have a specific hosted zone where it is actually getting hosted. So this is the DNS name where it is getting hosted onto, and currently the status is like both the instances are in service, and this is the VPC ID. And if I scroll the page a little down, it will basically show you the port configuration. So we remember the port 80 of the load balancer is going to forward the request to the port 80 of the EC2 instance. If I scroll the page a little more down, it is going to show the security group which we have attached to this load balancer. And here next we have the attributes. So idle timeout. So idle timeout is like 60 seconds. So if it is idle for 60 seconds, so what will happen like that, right? So we can edit the idle timeout. So you can increase the idle timeout saying it can be idle not more than for 60 seconds or something as such. So access logs. So if you really want to look out for the logs at a load balancer level, right? So if you want to get a lot of logs and to see who's accessing from which IP address and where from where the request is coming, so you can actually configure the access logs on this load balancer. So by default it will be disabled. You may need to go ahead and configure this by clicking on configure access log, and then it's going to ask you for the S3 bucket where you want to actually store this logs onto, right? So I just need to say enable and then give the S3 bucket name, and automatically all the logs will start flowing to that S3 bucket from the load balancer perspective. And then cross zone load balancing, we have already enabled it. Then in the instance section, basically it is going to show you the EC2 instances which are attached to this load balancer, and is also going to show you the availability zones which are part of this load balancer. And you can see here how many instances are available in which availability zone, right? So AP South 1 is having one instance. Currently AP South 1B is having one instance from our AWS account for this specific load balancer, and both of them are currently healthy. And then next we have the health check. This is the same health check page which we actually created while we were creating a load balancer. So if you want to make some changes in the parameters, you can always click on the edit health check, and then you can make the change in the parameters. And then this is the listener configuration. So where the load balancer will talk to EC2 instance, right? So currently both are speaking to themselves on the port 80, right? So if you want to enable the port 443, you can also do it. Now you can see that all the websites these days are basically HTTPS with a log symbol available, right? So if you click on the log symbol, it will actually show you a certificate, right? This is nothing but a SSL certificate overall, right? So if you want to request SSL certificate, and if you already have it, you can actually use the port number 443. So currently we do not have a certificate, so we are using the port 80. So we'll try to do a lab at the end of this AWS course where we'll try to add SSL certificate with port 443. And for our website, currently it is, you can see it is not secure. It will come as a HTTP protocol with not secure, right? So if you want to really make it secure with this log symbol, then we can actually add the SSL certificate which will operate on the port 443. So at that time the load balancer will be on port 443 and the EC2 instance will be on the port 80. So we are trying to traverse the traffic from 443 to port 80 at the SSL level. And next we have the CloudWatch alarms. So like the way we have CloudWatch metrics for EC2 instance, we also have it for the load balancer, which is actually going to show you how many healthy hosts are there, which means how many healthy instances are there, how many unhealthy are there, what is the average latency, how many requests are actually coming, if there are any errors occurring, how many errors are coming in terms of 5xx, 4xx and other things. So we'll talk about the different kinds of errors in the next upcoming lab, and it will also show you how much time does it actually take to process a specific request, right? So it will basically give you a complete overview of the metrics at a CloudWatch in terms for the ELB. And next we have the tags. So if you want to add some more tags, you will be able to add it here. And if you want to migrate from the classic load balancer to the application load balancer, you can always do by clicking on this button, and it'll ask you a couple of options, and then once you click on them, once you select them, it will automatically migrate it to the application load balancer from the classic load one. So first let's understand the classic load balancer. As and when we progress the course ahead, we'll also learn about the application load balancer in detail, how it is used, and why it is actually used in the real time.